Hello. Yes, welcome back, everybody, for the technical session. I'm sure our Chief Rapporteur, Mr. Bright Mando, Board Secretary, and Senior Legal Counsel has captured some of the key contextualizing points from the high-level session, which will begin to flesh out in the details in this technical session. So it's going to be good to enter the nitty-gritty of what is really happening in terms of initiatives, programs, projects, technologies to really bring to fruition disaster risk financing and response. So to kick off this technical session, we had a bit of a jam-packed opening. So we have online Dr. Andre Kamga of the African Center of Meteorological Applications for Development, ACMAD, to deliver his goodwill message. Following that, we'll have the Director for Climate Change at the National Disaster Management Authority of Ghana, Ms. Charlotte Norma, deliver as well her goodwill message. We're delighted to have Ghana in the room. So we'll first kickstart off with the online goodwill message from Dr. Andre Kamga. You have the floor.
Good. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So I'm happy to have this opportunity to share with you some of the highlights of what we have done with
Sorry, Dr. Kamga, we cannot hear you. IT, can we connect him to the speakers?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Good. Thank you. So thank you, everyone. So I am grateful to you all for having this opportunity to discuss some of the highlights in terms of activities undertaken with ARC, some challenges we had to move forward faster than what we have done till today, and some ideas on our thinking given the emergence of the early warning for all in particular. So first of all, we should recognize the activities undertaken by ARC initially on drought insurance across Africa. And in 2015, we started supporting this process with drought forecasting, drought outlook, based on what we've been doing for the regional climate outlook forums. So we had that year the challenge with one of the most devastating drought in Southern Africa, the 2015-2016 drought over Southern Africa, which in terms of impact actually reduced by half the hydropower production of the Kariba Dam. We even had some days without the possibility to generate electricity from that dam. So in that year, by August 2015, the SAC of the Climate Outlook Forum in the region generated a product updated in September and October with ACMAD. But in the assessment later in August 2016, the declaration at the regional level of the state of drought emergency occurred in July 2016. So this is well after the end of the drought season, which of course in the region start around October in 2015 and ended in March, April 2016. So it was a challenge for us to see the development of a system where we have anticipatory action using climate outlook, particularly drought outlook, and have this regional level declaration of state of emergency well before, let's say even at least in January. Given the fact that the drought usually starts by November, we see the early signs, and it is almost clear what the season will generate in terms of drought impact. It's almost clear by December, January. So this, until today, is still a challenge. So we really want at least to undertake, given our experience with WMO on how we engineer innovation, to undertake a pilot demonstration project with the Africa Risk Capacity, to on one hand demonstrate how we can really generate anticipatory action plan well before using the forecast, and then move towards formalizing these operations in 3 to 4 years' time. So this is, let's say, for us, the biggest expectation. And we have a conducive environment today. The Early Warning for All initiative, then the African Multi-Hazard Early Warning System, where we have set up the required institutional infrastructure with a situation room at the AUC and a Continental Multi-Hazard Advisory Center at ACMA, which is currently generating disaster situation reports and continental watches. So we would be happy to see ARC participating in real time in the briefings that we have with the African Union and supporting the African Union during eventually appeals that are done for humanitarian support. So it is something we are advocating for, even for the management of the current drought in South Africa, as well as in Northern Africa. As you know, ACMAT is a continental organization, and we also had drought over North Africa during the past winter. And it is ACMAT member states from that region are also expecting the center to put some emphasis on that region of the continent. Yeah, so those are the idea, let's say the main challenge I wanted to put forward for us to work towards in Southern Africa, having these outlooks by August, and by November, December, having anticipatory action implemented, reducing potentially the cost of response and recovery that we know are exceptionally high today. Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to the discussions and the presentations going forward during this session.
Thank you very much, Dr. Andre Kamga. We really welcome your statements and really expectations on the relationship between ARC and ACMAT going forward. So this is duly taken note of. It's important to note that ARC itself has also started real engagement on the African Union, Africa Multi-Hazard Early Warning and Action Systems, where we were invited to the second technical working group meeting that concluded recently in Lusaka, Zambia. So we're really delighted to be embedded in that platform. And really this meeting is also touching on how we need strengthened cooperation, collaboration, and coordination of early warning systems, so that at the end of the day, the end user beneficiaries who we should always keep the focus on. And all these institutions, continental level, REC level, need to synergize and work together so that we're giving the best innovative products. So thank you very much. Let me not delve into your statement. I will now hand over to the Republic of Ghana, our dear government coordinator and sister, Ms. Charlotte Norman, Director for Climate Change at the National Disaster Management Authority of the Republic of Ghana to deliver her goodwill message for the meeting going forward. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and all existing protocols duly observed. On behalf of my boss, the Director General of NADMO, Honorable Eric Nana Agyemang-Prempeh, I'd like to express our gratitude to the ARC for their continued support to Ghana in the area of flood, droughts, and now outbreaks and epidemics management approaches. Ghana has had a long-standing relationship with ARC, and over the years, a strong bond of healthy working relationship has been formed. It is heartwarming to know that in a few months, Ghana would be able to purchase a drought insurance product for the northern parts of the country. With climate change bringing along with it its long dry spells, leading to low crop yields and ultimately food insecurity, this is very timely for our smallholder farmers. Against this backdrop, we wish to reiterate our continued support and look forward to further collaboration and support in disaster risk finance for both flood and outbreaks epidemics. And as our UNDP resident coordinator said, perhaps ARC will consider adding earthquakes to it. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your attention. We wish ARC well. We say that long live ARC, long live Ghana, and long live unity in the African continent. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Norman. We are indeed delighted to note that Ghana would really officially be joining the pool. And it's a long time coming. And we also want to commend the good relationship that ARC has had since it had Ghana on board when they signed the treaty in 2016 or so. We will look into the request for earthquakes. We can relay that to our R&D team. But definitely with more engagement, more collaboration, we can look to scale up more tools and services. So without further ado, let me introduce to you the chief facilitator of the technical segment. We have the senior advisor of the African Risk Capacity on the Outbreaks and Epidemics Program. Let me welcome you, Mr. Robert de Graft Agyako.
Thank you very much. I think, as somebody said, now it's entre nous. Our principals have left us, by the message, I'm sure we will get it back to them. And thank you for our colleague who's online. Tunde has titles for everyone. There's chief facilitator, principal facilitator, and I think mine is facilitator without the other added accolades. We want to just go through quickly some of the work that ARC does. And I'm glad that this morning's discussion is not only looking at climate-based disasters, but also making the nexus on the link between climate change and health, as well as food insecurity. Myself and Papa Zumana will be the ones working on this. We will speak about of course, what we do, the progress that we offer, the impact that we have made on the continent since 2012, and then the value proposition and some work that we've done on gender and disasters. Next slide, please. Right. So I think here, a lot of you who affiliated with ARC, you would have been privy to this information, which is that we were started as a specialized agency of the union in 2012. We have the agency and then also the affiliate, which is ARC. Our Okay, our work really is to help plan, prepare, and respond to catastrophes, be it climate-based or health emergencies, with capacity building, early warning, contingency planning as the really foundation for this work to be done. The goal, of course, is to build. It has become a disco now. Okay, I will continue. The goal, of course, is to build resilience. Yeah, it's better. Yeah, resilience and risk pooling for work to be done. Our vision is to the vision was to establish an institution, and which will be a development partner of choice. And I think over the last 13 years, ARC has grown into that role as the lead agency of the African Union in disaster risks and health disasters. And the mission is, of course, the creation of an institution that will promote harmonized work. And I like what Sister Charlotte said, coming together, working together to promote a common African need. And here you can see the leaders who back the work that we do, and our chief legal officer, Bright, making sure that countries sign their treaties and hand them over on right time. The organization is in two parts. You have the agency, which is mainly, I would say, a bit more overrepresented here. We work on the country engagement, country representation, capacity building, with the mandate from the African Union. The affiliate which we created is the one, after the work has been done, takes on and works on the insurance component of the work that we do. They are also now, apart from sovereign insurance, have moved into I would say small scale insurance, as at least for the climate-based perils. So I will stop here. And my colleague Papa will take over, walk us a bit through some of the products that we have. But suffice to say that we work in 4 core areas with a few products, about 5 to 6 products in those areas. There is the cyclone area, there's the floods, there's the drought, has different components, and then outbreaks and epidemics. Next slide, if you can put it on. And Papa will walk us through a few, and then I'll come in and wrap up. Thank you.
Gracias. Oh, great. So as you know, of course, natural disasters such as tropical cyclone, drought, flood, and outbreak disease, so which affect millions of people, you know, impacting the life of and livelihood of a vulnerable household, particularly women and children. So the African Risk Capacity building program are initiative which is designed to really enhance the ability of African countries to manage natural disaster and extreme weather events. So this program focus on strengthening institutional capacity, improving also technical skill, and developing strategy to mitigate the impact of disaster. So next slide, please. And then we can see the result of the work ARC is doing. 19 countries, you know, and humanitarian actors took up insurance policy at least once, I will say. And 16 countries out of 19 benefited insurance claims payout. Next slide, please. So, and we can see those countries receive over $225 million US to provide effective assistance to over 14 million beneficiaries, including livestock as well. So, and following El Nino, which affected this year east and southern countries, namely Mozambique, Malawi, Zimbabwe, and Zambia. So those countries benefited around 62 million payout, and Burkina Faso also in Sahel, which benefited around 7 million. So ARC Group definitely equips member state capacity to provide timely assistance in effective manner. And to achieve this, ARC brings together three powerful value proposition. So we have the risk modeling. So in this area, ARC experts train government officials and their partner on how to customize African risk view, which is the engine of this mechanism. So to develop a country drought risk profile and use the software platform housing the model for early warning purpose. So ARC also undertake quality assurance process for the customization work carried out by country experts through customization review committee, so which is a platform of independent experts in risk modeling. So that review, the work carried out by country, and make recommendation on how the result of a modeling can be made robust. We have also contingency planning. So an ARC trained government official and the stakeholders on ARC contingency planning concept, which focuses mainly on early action. So ARC facilitate consultation among government departments and humanitarian actors, breaking down the silo among those different actors in the country. So to build a sort of consensus on the activities that can be implemented during a response. So following an extreme weather event, in doing this, ARC facilitate the development of what we call operational plan prior to taking up insurance, which is a prerequisite for any member state to participate in the mechanism. So the operational plan then undergo also through a technical review by technical review committee, which we call TRC. So the TRC is a platform of independent experts on contingency plan as well. So, and humanitarian response that review the robustness of the country operational plan and makes recommendation on how they can be strengthened. Risk financing and risk transfer. So in this area, ARC facilitates dialogue on the importance of disaster risk financing by highlighting the various tools that are available for governments. So including training members of a technical working group on ARC parametric insurance concept. ARC also assisted the technical working group to select the risk transfer insurance parameters, for example, for recommendation to the government on the insurance policy the country can take out. Currently, ARC has also included gender mainstreaming and monitoring and evaluation in disaster risk management as cross-cutting streams of work, considering the importance of these two areas for effective disaster management. So at the end of this process, which usually take about 6 to 12 months, the country is awarded with a certificate of good standing that enables them to take out insurance from ARC Limited. Next, please. So for the main climate induced hazards that Africa is facing, ARC has developed a few products, namely agriculture drought, pastoral drought, tropical cyclone model, outbreak and epidemic flood, and extreme climate facility, which is under development. So we can see the agricultural drought product was launched in 2014, where ARC initiated the insurance mechanism, the risk pooling with some member states. And this product is still, ongoing for improvement purpose, etc. And the pastoral drought also was made available 2020 to some member states, namely in Sahel region, where some countries have taken up insurance policy for this product. Tropical cyclone for southwest Indian Ocean region. We have Madagascar, who managed to take up insurance policy for tropical cyclone model and benefited several payouts following the shock. And outbreak and epidemic. This product was launched 2022, 2023, and Senegal took up insurance policy for outbreak and epidemic. And flood model, which we expect completion by 2025, so that some country can have access to this product. An extreme climate facility is still under development. Hopefully, soon this product will be made available for adaptation funding for extreme climate variation. Next slide, please. Yeah, okay, next. So ARC provides, as we say, quick funds to government and the enabling of early disbursement of emergency response services to those living in affected areas. So we have also economic cost of a delay response per household, knowing that in the absence of external assistance, that will increasingly bring a pronounced negative consequences. So assistance really needs to reach the affected population before the end of 4 months, 120 days, as we say. So which really to prevent the impact of reduced food intake at household level, or at least by month 6 to prevent asset depletion. So we can see around this window, when we intervene, the cost of intervention can be around $50, providing assistance to household. And beyond this period, we can see how much it will cost to really assist a household. So in terms of loss, asset depletion, rate of malnutrition, etc., the cost, the loss can be estimated around $1,300. Next slide, please. Next. Great. So we can see Africa Risk View platform, which, as I said earlier, is the engine of this insurance mechanism. This tool allows countries or users to really follow the progression of insured season in terms of agrometeorological development and in terms of impact on vulnerable population in a near real time. So it's also allowed to estimate the number of people affected by drought without really the need for an assessment on the ground, as is done with traditional insurance mechanism. Automatically, this mechanism also triggers payout by ARC Limited if a specific thresholds like set by the country are reached. And it is definitely a transparent and objective mechanism to quantify disaster risk, particularly drought, which is applied to all countries in the ARC risk pool. Next, please. So regarding the model of pastoral drought model, so we can see the disruption of rainfall or deficit of rainfall can really lead to socioeconomic distress, whereby we see water availability and quality in extensive rangeland is extremely sensitive to the distribution and the quantity of precipitation. So the low availability to forage wills can result in a low productivity as well, which lead to having less milk and calves, and also deterioration of definitely productive asset such as cattle. So the household tend to go to negative coping mechanism, which will consist particularly to migrate or split their cattle. So, leading to really use of most costly lands, less income available for the household. So this also lead to loss of human capital investment, and sometimes, because of sharing of scarce resources, and that can create conflict among the communities. We have also distress sale of animals, so whereby we have a poor integrated market, which can be exacerbated by loss of, in term of, trade, long-term implication of selling their productive capital, and which can, take them in a negative spiral of poverty. Therefore, they are trapped in this cycle. Next, please. So the maximum amount that reflects really the estimate cost of intervention for early response, for example, for asset or livelihood protection to catastrophic drought in a specific location, is determined by country. And so this requires really creation of a direct linkage between the estimated drought severity and the national response contingency plan. The payout function linked to contingency plan is designed collaboratively with ARC technical experts in each country, national drought planning and response institution during the product customization. And next, we have a tropical cyclone model, as I mentioned earlier. So this model, which is really made available in the Southwest Indian Ocean region, is one of the most active area, of course, in the world in terms of tropical cyclone, whereby we can see on average 13 tropical cyclone events with a wind speed exceeding almost 63 kilometers per hour formed in Southwest Indian Ocean region each year. So the loss of life and material damage caused by tropical cyclone is very important due to high winds, storm, surge, and heavy rains. Next. So the tropical cyclone model, you can next. Yeah, model output, you can see, you know, the population affected by different event of cyclone, whereby we have a characteristic of a different tropical cyclone event. So with this also, we can see a model loss and damage which derive from exposed land and as attribution. So thank you very much for your attention. I will pass over to the chief of ABREC to continue the presentation.
Thank you very much, Papa. I'm hoping for the day when it will not be all other products and outbreaks and epidemics. It will be all products together. Quickly to add to what Papa said, one of the products that we've been working on for quite a while is the disease outbreaks and epidemics, which 2 years ago, we managed, after 4 or 5 years of R&D, we managed to launch. And Senegal is the first country that has subscribed to it for 2 years. Mainly same principle to provide faster and more predictable funding, help countries in the preparation for disease outbreaks. And there are some specific diseases that we've looked at for this time. Quickly, next slide, so I can, yes. So the diseases that we've been working on and are ready for markets have been Ebola, of course, which at the time that we were working on from 2016 was about 26 countries that were at risk. The risk has grown since then. Lassa fever. So Ebola is a viral hemorrhagic fever we know from bats and from other zoonotics. Lassa fever is also a virus that is spread by rodents, by a type of mouse. Usually they leave their feces and co on food, and that also then I think there's been an outbreak usually in this part of the continent. We also talk about Marburg, which is a sister disease to Ebola, similar to Ebola in its case fatality and also the problems that it brings. Then the last one is meningitis. So if you look at the geography of these diseases at the time when we consulted Africa CDC, a number of our AU countries and WHO, they were selected based on where we felt at that time those diseases were most predominant. So we didn't want to leave any part of the continent out. So Ebola at that time was more Central Africa, Western Africa. You had Lassa fever, a bit more of a West African problem. Marburg was Eastern, Southern Africa. And then, of course, meningitis is a whole continent wide, but more for the Sahel region and to the north and south of that. Together, when you merge this, at that time, there were 44 countries that were most affected. But as I said, between 2016 and now, that has changed as a result of climate change and a number of other issues. Recently, when we had, just stay on the old one for a minute, yeah. Yes, recently when we have what we call our Conference of Parties, all the ARC countries came together, there was another component that they introduced, which is we've been trying to look at climate change and health. But in the area of food security, pastoral animal diseases is something that came up. And 2 diseases that we feel that we can add to this is Rift Valley fever and another one called Crimean Congo hemorrhagic fever. Rift Valley fever is spread by mosquitoes and blood-eating flies with a 30% fatality, i.e. Okay, somebody, okay. Right. Yes, so that is a disease that attacks animals, but there's human to human infection as well. So what is happening here is that not only does it affect food security, but there is risk to humans as well. Crimean Congo is similar. That is more of a tick bite disease. It affects a lot of animals in the Eastern Africa, in the Sahel region, also with a fatality of about 40%. For example, for Rift Valley fever, you have a 90% abortion among animals who get affected. So this is also a disease that, if you look, it has both human impact and also it has impact on food security. And with climate change, you have the spread of the vectors across the continent. So these are some of the, next slide, these are some of the problems that we are facing in the area of health, not only human health, but animal health and food security. So the linkage is very strong. I just wanted to say that in this discussion also, the strong component of gender is something that ARC has been looking at. And for the last 2 years, we've been working in 6 countries in West Africa to look at the gender impact of the health, disease outbreaks and epidemics in these 6 countries with some funding from the Gates Foundation. So to wrap up, these are the products that we've been working on in ARC. And we would like to, with your help, spread the news to the countries, and the ones that are fully established, of course, the droughts and co, but we would like your help to also bring on the new products like outbreaks and epidemics, flood when it comes on, tropical cyclone where it's needed, and in future also others that may come on board. So thank you very much. We have finished the presentation. If there are any questions and answers, Papa and I are here to respond to them. Thank you very much.
Okay. J'espère que ce ne sera pas des questions trop techniques. Ah, pardon.
Thank you very much. My name is Mansour from ACMAD. Thanks for all these very beautiful presentations. And one can now establish the nexus of what we are doing at continental level, and of course also some of your products. So during the ACMAD presentation, you see details of what we do and also the nexus of how we can achieve more working together. We do a lot of products linked to agriculture, disaster risk management, and also, of course, health. And I can see that some areas that are left behind on the health issues of measles and meningitis, it could be very, very, at times, severe in some countries. And we have available models also that also who be able to predict this accurately and also use scientific and socioeconomic methods to verify. I just have a question on one entry point. Before joining ACMAD, I work at the National Med Service for about a decade, and then also created an interface of users at the country, national and subnational levels. And I don't see ACK visibility very pronounced in some of these countries. So what are your entry point strategies in countries that are participating? I can see more than 20. And then secondly, also ACMAD being a continental level RCC of WMO and also Center of Excellence of AU. So could also help in creating awareness among this, because we have different platforms whereby we interact with DRR community and the Med services at ACOFs, at African Continental Climate Outlook Forums, and also we support all the regional continental climate, regional outlook forums like PRISAS and others on the continent. So I can see a very great window of collaboration. And I'm happy to announce that I think during COVID, ACMAD signed an MOU And we have a pending meeting now on 22nd on how we can explore more to generate more products, especially that Ahmad has created 4 user interface on the continent, which could be used as a delivery platform and mechanism for such. Anyway, you are doing great job, and I can see the link between the 2 organizations. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation. I think it's very insightful on the work and how ARC has grown over time, and all the work that we're doing on modeling and anticipation. My question is more on some of these vulnerable groups, because when we focus on, as we're focusing on sovereign risk at the moment, or rather some instruments are sovereign. My question is regarding some of these groups, pastoral groups that move across countries. For example, the Fulbe, as they mentioned, say in Ghana, and maybe the Fulani group, is these specific groups that may be difficult to find because of their movements, given the seasons. What opportunities they are for them to be able to be also covered in periods like this, when you have a major drought that impacts their major source of livelihoods. Thank you.
So thank you very much. So I am Peter Edu, economist with the UN Resident Coordinator. So I have a bit of more technical and a more general coordination question. So on the technical side and the modeling, have you taken note of the broader system modeling framework for countries that join? Broader system modeling framework. So for instance, when you look at what the rating agencies are doing and how they rate all countries according to a broader framework that contains even the climate, combination of climate, political risk, and all that into their framework. Have you taken care of the key variables within there? And then for if any country should join, how they can make use of outcomes fitting into the broader risk framework of a country. And if so, what does it really take for a country to join? What are the implications? Is it just a mere signing on to it, or the countries have, because NADMO is here, and I don't know why it takes them some time to join as a country, but perhaps looking at the implications to join, there could be some financial demands, some key requirements for the government or the country, which the country may not, in essence, be ready. So you may be signing on to join the ARC, but you cannot readily provide all the needed data, capacity, and support to ensure that ARC is efficiently delivered, and they also benefit from it. Have you taken note of all that, and what does it take? On the broader coordination, I know OCHA, on behalf of the UN, and then the DRR, UN Disaster Risk Reduction, I think UNDR, right? They also run some of these models. How are you aligned? We just conducted a country capacity framework. I mean, assessing how the country is ready to mitigate all disaster and then, I mean, support its resilience systems. The report is not out yet. I mean, WFP was at the lead of this. How is your framework aligning with the UNDRR framework to the extent that we don't duplicate these actions across the conference of parties that will join? So I think these are my few concerns. Thank you.
So, you know, okay. So I have may I? Okay. So my name is Karen Widrago, from ECOWAS. I have two questions. First of all, I'd like to thank the presentators for the presentations that have been given. So on the capacity building, you guys have mentioned that ARC is providing capacity building to the countries that have subscribed to the solution. Is it possible to actually have this type of assistance at regional level, like ECOWAS, because we are putting in place some, risk transfer instruments, and I'm actually working on the project, and we would like to see how we could actually work together in this sense. And also, regarding the type of risk that are taken into account at ARC, I've seen that you guys are looking at drought, flood, and different hazards. But in the ECOWAS region, we do have food and security issues. So how do you envision taking into account factors that do affect food and security? Thank you.
Merci, merci beaucoup. Bon, on a une série de questions. So yes, we have this. Ababatuna just took his. Well, it's fine, it's fine. I will try my best in English. All right. So yeah, there are very interesting questions, and I think some of the question our colleague will intervene later will address, various of those questions. If you don't mind, you have some patience. But okay, I can maybe take a few in terms of vulnerability group. How to find given the season, to provide assistance to those vulnerability group. In fact, well, member state and that take out the insurance policy and get a payout, they cover the most vulnerable group, regardless of their activity, namely pastoralist group. There are also, provided with timely assistance. For example, those group with livestock, you have activity covering the need of providing animal feed to livestock community or pastoralists before exactly they migrate, for looking for better area for their animal. And this is really done in very objective manner, in terms of targeting, etc. What else a question I can address? The capacity building, I think, yes, definitely. We are more than willing to collaborate with regional ECOWAS institution, providing whatever capacity is needed in this insurance area. I think we are doing almost at country level. For example, the preparedness, operational preparedness work, which is, most of the country benefiting this support. And at a regional level, we have seen how exactly the country benefiting the preparedness work can be taken at a regional level when there is a disaster, major disaster exactly, that can occur in those countries. So if a specific need is required at regional body level, I think we are more than happy for that. In terms of products, Yeah, for instance, of course, ARC is providing products to those model that can be, modeling, I would say, like drought, flood, outbreak, and epidemic, etc. And I think food security was also is which derive from those event drought are captured. I will say are captured in the intervention of ARC. Now maybe if you have a conflict and other peril which are not model and are not so far taken into consideration in our mechanism, definitely that's probably critical. And I think you can see even in cadre harmonisé, whereby we have a drought component which is really predominant in terms of food insecurity is captured in our model, but other element that contribute to food security, as I mentioned, the conflict, insecurity, etc. So today are not really model and therefore not taken into consideration in our mechanism. So that's what I can say, colleague. Yeah, you want, the pastoral, yes, answer. Colleague, if you want to come in.
Well, I will take a few of the other questions. Switch off your mic, sir. Yes, and then I think the next presentation will go a bit into the engagement strategy and so that might answer some of those questions. But there was one on modeling or models that are being used. We would like to see what you have, but we have for the climate-based, I think there's a Africa Risk View. It's something that we have developed for a long time. I think countries have access to, that they can see their risk for the climate-based perils. For the outbreaks and epidemics, we are just piloting another version. We'll call it the Africa Risk View Epidemics Explorer. Actually, this week, Ghana, Sierra Leone, and another country were looking at that. So there are some models that we have that we can work with you to look at how we can improve that. There was a question around when we are modeling, do we bring in other issues, the system modeling and co. For example, I can only speak to the product that I know best, and I think it applies to the other ones. For outbreaks and epidemics, we don't only look at the health indicators to do the modeling. You have health indicators are 4, and then the non-health indicators are 3. We do look at surveillance, you look at response capacity, laboratory capacity, risk communication. Those are core health indices to know if the country is prepared or not. Then you have 3 underlying or cross-cutting indicators that you want to look at. What is the governance structure? What is the political stability, absence of conflict? Because that will determine if you will be able to actually take services to people or not. You also look at finance, the health financing, what is the health expenditure, government revenue, and then the last one is infrastructure, road network, logistical capacity. So we do a lot of cross tabulation and other systemic factors that will, how do I say it, affect the ability to bring services, but also the delivery capacity of the country. So yes, we look at system-wide. We would even include corruption index here and things of that nature. Thank you very much. I think that is all. Mamadi and Co, was there something else you wanted to address? Kofi, yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Robert. I think there were some questions about capacity building, we addressed it during the presentations, but one, I think the question was on food insecurity, if we address it. You may know that a drought is a driver of food insecurity. So by modern drought and indirectly, we also trying to address food insecurity. And the response that we provide in terms of when there is a payout to a countries, the work that my colleague Papa Zumana and his team do actually is to come up with a sort of operational plans, but also fund implementation plans to really respond to the need of the affected people, meaning that our main goal is to address food security issues. I just want to highlight that. So the other question on the engagement, my colleague Bambadi and I, we address them during the presentations. Thank you.
Yeah, big question. Yeah, definitely. But I think I would say that when we look at priority areas of UNDR, and I will say definitely we are aligned, in terms of even the model, the disaster risk quantification and transfer for insurance purpose, and also the preparedness work we are doing at country level. All these areas I will say are aligned with the UNDR, which we have even a collaboration as well, because we have a MOU with a UNDRR, so to joint project, yeah. So definitely there is alignment, I want to say. Thank you.
I think, Papa, on that point, we can also add, of course, the Bible of disaster risk, which is a Sendai framework. We all ascribe and subscribe to it. We work with the African Union. For us, also Africa CDC and WHO. So, but it would be good to know hear a bit more at the country level how you would want us to. Your eyes are on the ground, and you probably have perspectives that can enhance the work that we do. Thank you. I think we can wrap up this session and hand over to the next team. Thank you very much, everyone.
So as we get into the next one, sorry, there's one more question you are missing on me in terms of the requirement on the part of the country to join the. Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
Next slide, please. Yes, good afternoon or good morning, right, colleagues. So my name is Kofi Konen, Head of Government Service East and South Africa. I'm from West Africa, but I've been adopted in the East and South Africa region. And so just want to complement the presentation that my colleagues Papa Zumana and Robert made, just by bringing a regional perspective. So our work as a country engagement team is really to lead the political engagement, but also technical engagement with our member states. And the way ARC is set up in terms of our departments. So the country engagement department is divided into two. We have the West and Central Africa regions, which is currently based in our regional office in Abidjan. And my colleague Mamadi is country engagement and representing the regions today. And myself leading the East and Southern Africa. So basically, before I get there, I will try to respond some of the questions that we promised to respond to. One question was, what does it take a country to really join ARC? My colleague mentions the ARC mandate, African Risk Capacity Special Agency of African Union, why countries decided to establish the institutions. My colleague talked about that. And is a treaty-based organizations, meaning that all AU, the 55 member state of AU, so before they said we are a member of ARC, they have to sign the treaty. And so far, there are 39 members, meaning that out of 55, we still have 16 countries that are not a member yet. In Eastern Southern Africa, country that region that lead, 10 countries are still not member, and then Western Central Africa, 6 countries. So some of our strategies is to really ensure that we have all the 55 member states join ARC. Not only for the insurance is just one component of the work, the mandates. We have a lot of work around capacity building that we'll talk about that. So that's what it takes. So for a country to become members, the country just decide to sign the established treaty. And just last year, 4 countries actually joined. The last one that joined is South Sudan, that joined in November last year. And our work is to really work hard, closely with member states for them to understand the value propositions for them joining the mechanism, not only for the insurance component, but also benefit for what the organization offer. I think what my colleagues mentions around the risk modeling, the contingency planning, gender, and all the product that we have. So that's the value proposition of organizations. Now, how do we work as an indicator? For now, our, what's that? Okay, yeah, I think it's fine. For now, our temporary headquarters is based in Johannesburg, but the official one, the permanent one, is supposed to be in Abidjan. And we have a regional office. So as the provisional headquarters is based in the Johannesburg, the regional office now in Abidjan. So when the headquarters move permanently to Abidjan, then the Southern Africa region also will have a regional office. But how do we operate at country level? So basically, within the countries, when the country signed the treaty, right, you are a member. But for us to really define the framework of our collaborations, there is a memorandum of understanding that is signed between ARC and one government institutions. It's sort of negotiations, discussions. When I take the example of Ghana, so the National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, is the institution that signed the MOU of ARC. Then NADMO automatically will be the institution that hosting ARC, represent ARC in the countries. So that's our host. So when the country team, ARC team comes to the countries, this, like the office is NADMO, right? And when the MOU is signed, the MOU, there has to be 2 things that need to be clearly defined. Who is going to be at political level, the supervisor of the ARC program, in terms of leadership or decision-making, and automatically that institution heads is confirmed to be the head of, I should say ARC program. In that case, for Ghana, I will be using Ghana as example, is the head of NADMO, that is the program supervisor. And together with ARC team, discussions to identify a government coordinator who will be coordinating the programs in terms of communications between ARC and the government team. And our sister, Charlotte, is our government coordinator for Ghana. So once that's the top there, when these people are identified, the next step is to establish a technical working group. My colleagues made a presentation around our work streams: risk modeling, contingency planning, the products, including outbreaks and epidemics, gender. So the work here, the objective is to make sure that we have relevant people, technical people at a country level to be able to do that work. And that's the work that we're doing. And from our side, we have a focal point that we call country engagement manager. And my colleague Mamadi is one of them. So they have a portfolio of countries that they manage. And so that's how our structure look like. Next slide, please. Next. So yeah, just want to underscore some core points. I think we'll be talking about insurance. Yes, insurance, parametric insurance is one of the tools as a disaster risk financing tool that we offer. But our work goes beyond insurance. When member state decided to create ARC, the mandate was just to really strengthen the capacity of member states to really deal with disasters that affect the continent, meaning capacity building around risk modeling, contingency planning, gender that my colleague mentions. But as one tool of disaster risk management or financing, insurance claimed to be one efficient tool. And that's why the recommendation was to establish, member states decided to establish an insurance affiliate. For now, my colleague mentions ARC Limited is the insurance affiliate that provide insurance. But going forward, if the need arises, other affiliate can be created, for instance, to carry on other functions. And this is mentioned clearly in the treaty. Mean that next year the country can decide, yes, we want to create an insurance, maybe an affiliate that can provide card bond, something like this. So it's not just limited to insurance for now. And underscore on one thing, disaster risk financing strategies. I think one of the questions is how do we ensure that we work with, all key partners? We cannot do it without having a proper design, disaster risk financing strategies. And that's why it's a part of our capacity building, where we train countries. We are part of, the work that is done to really come up with disaster risk financing strategies. We did it in Malawi. If you look at Malawi disaster risk financing strategies, our tool is clearly mentioned there. Mozambique disaster risk financing strategy launched in 2019, 2020. Also ARC's instruments there. We now supporting Zambia, Zimbabwe, also develop their disaster risk financing strategies. So that's a strategy that really ensure at country level, these are the stakeholders, the core stakeholders that need to be really considered or consulted to address the instrument or the issues, the risk that the country faced. Other things that I think is also important really to mention is ARC tools as early warning tools, not only to advocacy and awareness creations, where we believe that on the continent, disaster risk management is not something that really people know all the countries when it comes to prioritizations. So then we need to really have a continuous capacity building or advocacy around disaster risk management, targeting key stakeholders at country level. Yes, there are the partners, but within the government, what are the key players that really need to be informed to ensure that they're prioritized? And one of the core stakeholders are the member of parliaments, because when it comes to let's say ACID being an instrument after signing the treaty, for country really to adopt the mechanism, they have to ratify. And member of parliaments are key because they want that they create the law or adopt the law about ratifying. So if they don't see the value proposition of the instrument, they will never ratify. Then we need to engage them around the mechanism to understand. That's one point. Second point, when we look at the insurance side also, insurance means a premium to be paid by countries. And it has to go also within, or it has to fit within national budgets. And member of parliament will not approve a budget line to pay for premium if they are not engaged. That's why they are key stakeholders for us. And to be that capacity building also, we target the media. They have to understand what does it mean, the disaster risk management and financing. So these are the kind of capacity building that we provide. Next slide, please. So I think you can move this slide. We go to, yes. So this, I think the colleagues mentions the impact of El Nino this year. And what we basically do is when, for instance, our insurance affiliates confirm that there is some special payout that goes to the government, we think we use as advocacy strategy to highlight really the importance of the mechanism from both agency side that does the capacity building, but also the insurance affiliate that provide insurance. So for this year, the 4 countries that I mentioned earlier that were seriously impacted by El Nino, these are the 4 countries there. So we started the payout ceremony, for instance, in Zambia. That was June 14, where 3.3 million was paid to the countries, including the government and also the replica partners. And then in Zimbabwe, just very recently, 4th of July, where a total payout for about 32 million. And then we still have, Mozambique and Malawi ceremony to host. The idea about that ceremony really to bring all the stakeholders that really contribute to the ACT mechanism, donor fund the capacity building to really see the importance of the mechanism, but also use it as advocacy strategies for the other members that haven't joined, for also to see the value really to join the mechanism. That's why we have those kind of a ceremony to really highlight the impact of the mechanism. Next slide. So that's one of the questions the colleague asked, what do we do with the region entities, right? So in East and South Africa region, we have collaborations with 2 regional economic committees where we have MOU. These are IGAD and also SADC. So from IGAD, you can see, we look at, we had the MOU with them on, I think the MOU was signed on 3rd of September 2019, looking into 4 areas of collaborations. In terms of one area, for instance, advocacy awareness. How do we ensure that together we really strengthen or we build the culture, disaster risk culture in the region for the 8 IGAD countries, right, together, and then make sure that those countries that are still not part of the ACT mechanism really can join from the regional perspective. Then we're looking into collaboration on policy, disaster risk management policy, but also disaster risk financing strategies. So how IGAD from the regional perspective can encourage those member states really adopt those policies. And then one other area is a financial mechanism for, in terms of resource mobilizations, to really even support the in-country climate structure to ensure that relevant data are available for us to use, for instance, for the modeling phase. And these are the type of collaboration that we do. And then lastly, when it comes to communications, regional together, how do we build on the storytelling when there is a payout or when there is an impact, or using those regional communities, climate informations, climate center information to also feed in the technical that we do. So those are the collaboration area that currently we're doing with the IGAD. Next slide, please. And then SADC will look into, yes, go next slide until you see everything. So we also look into 3 areas of collaborations. Capacity building. So how do we work together with SADC, the 16 countries of SADC, to ensure that those are not members of ARC from the regions really can join? So next slide, please. Then when we talk about capacity building, I mentioned earlier, target relevant stakeholders to make sure that we can really achieve that within the regions. You can go back, please. Yes. Right. And then we're looking also advocacy, stakeholder engagement. I think I mentioned that is the same as what we have for IGAD. And lastly, also on the premium support component, SADC, for instance, has established, I think the executive secretary in the opening remarks mentioned that, where there is the regional disaster risk management fund. So the idea is really to see how they can set up, is actually still in discussions to set up a sort of a regional disaster management fund who could, maybe in the future be also used to support some of the member states from the region to have an insurance coverage if they wish. So these are the few things that I wanted to highlight, and my colleague Mamadi will just maybe strengthen or 2 points from the West Africa side, West and Central Africa side. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kofi. For this session, I would like to speak in French. So those who don't speak French should put. Ah ben oui. Donc, comme mon collègue Kofi l'a tantôt mentionné, l'objectif de l'ARC, notamment, c'est de fournir un renforcement de capacité au pays. Et quand on regarde cette carte, en fait, c'est l'ensemble des pays dans la région CEDEAO qui travaillent avec l'ARC. Quand on voit au fait que nous avons renforcé les capacités d'à peu près tous les pays dans lesquels nous travaillons en modélisation de risque, mais aussi en système d'alerte précoce. Beaucoup de nos pays, y compris le Ghana, que ce soit le Ghana, le Niger, le Sénégal, utilisent ARV comme système d'alerte précoce. Donc, en contribution déjà de ce qui est fait par ACMAD au niveau prévisionnel et qui est fait par l'Agrimet aussi. Donc, on vient combler aussi cela sur l'indicateur sécheresse, par exemple, et aujourd'hui l'indicateur pastoral. Donc, quand on regarde, au fait, on a eu 9 pays qui ont eu dans la région un décaissement. Désolé, ces chiffres ne sont pas mis à jour. Le Burkina a eu à peu près 8 millions de dollars de décaissement à ce jour. Le Niger, on est à 7 millions de décaissements. Les autres sont corrects. Donc, ça montre au fait aussi l'impact du travail que l'ARC fait. Mais je vais tourner un peu, parce que l'intégration de l'ARC dans la région est assez forte. C'est de voir au fait comment est-ce que, depuis que nous avons commencé à travailler dans la région, comment est-ce que cette intégration est passée du niveau national au niveau régional. Donc, ça va servir de transition à la présentation de la CEDEAO tout à l'heure. On a compris dès 2016 qu'il était très important que l'ARC s'insère au fait dans les mécanismes régionaux. Quand je dis mécanismes régionaux, je pense de différents mécanismes techniques qui sont l'Agrimet, c'est-à-dire donc on a signé des MOU avec la CEDEAO qui nous a permis d'avoir un MOU avec le SILS. Et cette collaboration technique et cette collaboration d'échange d'expérience nous a permis justement de faire partir de certains mécanismes d'échange d'expériences qui sont dans la région, comme le PREJEC, le RPCA, entre autres. Mais il y a aussi EcoApp, parce que ARC est observateur dans le groupe des donateurs de EcoApp, qui est ECOWAS Agricultural Policy. Donc, quand on voit ça, on voit vraiment qu'au niveau technique, il y a un échange, parce que même quand on fait la revue de notre modèle, même quand on essaye de modifier les modèles dans les pays, on utilise le cadre harmonisé pour voir au fait s'il y a un alignement entre ce que nous faisons et ce que la région dit au niveau de l'insécurité alimentaire. On regarde aussi au niveau des prévisions avec l'ACMAD, à partir d'avril, avant le début de la saison, nos équipes techniques ont les prévisions de l'ACMAD pour voir au fait comment la saison va se comporter au niveau technique. Donc ça montre cette intégration régionale qui aussi est renforcée par le fait que nationalement, ARC agit dans ces pays, comme vous voyez ces niveaux de décaissement. On va passer au prochain diapositive, s'il vous plaît. Donc, quand on regarde aujourd'hui, justement, qu'est-ce qu'il y a lieu de faire dans la région ECOWAS en Afrique de l'Ouest, c'est continuer justement cet engagement politique. Parce que l'engagement technique est là, l'engagement politique doit être renforcé. C'est de travailler justement à la coordination de la réponse, donc l'assistance alimentaire, mais aussi renforcer au fait la collaboration au niveau de tout ce qui est Climate Service Information. Donc, en ce moment, nos équipes sont en train de préparer un plan de travail avec ACMAD sur justement voir comment est-ce que nous pouvons utiliser leurs outils dans nos analyses de prévision, mais aussi renforcer les capacités de nos pays. Enfin, au fait, justement, Financial Mechanism for DRM, je pense que ça a été un vœu aujourd'hui qui est en train de prendre forme. Notre collègue de la CEDEAO l'exprimera. On a toujours dit qu'il était très important que la CEDEAO s'implique davantage, tant sur le niveau de la gestion des risques de catastrophe, que sur le niveau du financement des risques de catastrophe. Donc, elle parlera plus de ça, mais c'est justement dans ce cadre au fait que l'ARC appuie cette collaboration. Donc, voilà, sans plus tarder, je pense que ça sert de transition aussi à ce qui va être dit plus tard, ce que la CEDEAO et ce que la SADC va présenter. Je vous remercie. So Babatunde, ARC presentation, setting the scene on the collaboration with the region, just finished. The next speaker is, oh, if there's some question, but I wanted us to, okay, if there's some question yet, but, okay, go ahead with the question.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Maybe let me start from the last. I just like to even though I missed the translation before halfway, but I think it's good at the ECOWAS level. I think ECOWAS headquarters in Abuja and other high-level actors need to really. There was a disaster situation room established by UNDRR in collaboration with the backstopping scenario by ACMAD, but that situation room has been lying for 2 years now. So I wanted to discuss with my colleague from ECOWAS. We have missed forecast products dissemination last year, and we are also missing this year because the season is almost halfway in some Sahelian states. So some of these technical situation rooms really needs to be given priority in terms of their importance in reducing this risk. In Nigeria and other countries, we have seen the impact of 2022 floods running into billions of dollars, and some of such damages could have been averted by operationalizing those situation rooms. I just have another question on strategy of entry point user engagement at country level. How do you handle multi-stakeholder country level scenario in organizing ARC intervention. Because even though you have a focal point else, either at DRR or at Met Service or any relevant Ministry of Agri or elsewhere. So, but how do you handle, we know what happens in countries. At times there will be overlap, there will be competitions at horizontal level of government operations, and then at vertical level when reaching the user interface engagement at the community level. Secondly, it's also a suggestion. Do you conduct baseline survey to target communities? Because in projecting the impact of ARC intervention, you mentioned the amount paid as payout, and then also you mentioned the number of target communities that benefited. So, but at times funding and collaborating partners require in-depth impact information. If you conduct baseline before entering, you know how vulnerable and how certain climate extreme events affects such populations. And now with your intervention, so it has the household has moved from this income level to this level of income, and how that impacts on their livelihoods. So I think even for decision makers, if you are moving to another new country, it will really catch their attention if you make certain detailed socioeconomic impacts, the benefits of such intervention. I will give you an example. There was a flood incident that was predicted in a country in Nigeria 2022. And Central Bank of Nigeria was to issue out a loan to farmers to the tune of 120 billion. And we wrote them a technical note based on our collaboration with ACMAD and the update we are getting on the forecast within the season and also sub-season. So they stepped down that project's issuance of such loan, and that saved the central bank 120 billion naira. And it has been documented, and they've written to the Met Service. So you can see some of these things by the time you present them. So even when we went to the National Assembly then, we used this figure that, okay, even though Met Service and other agencies don't generate kobo and naira easily, but we avert a cost, and that should be also added to our contribution to GDP. So some of these strategies also really helps. And last but not the least, also the need to really, because most of the intervention and the products are climate related products, to really work with the regional centers. I'm happy that we already have an MOU. It's just to put it into actions. Because I will give you an example with El Nino forecast models that at times you could use online. In 2022, 23 to 24, we will be having 3 phases of El Nino, neutral, and La Nina. And this requires subseasonal updates. I will give you an example with Sahelian countries. Initially, based on the forecast, we forecast that late onset, and then after issuance of the forecast, we monitored the agricultural seasons, and we've really seen that. And based on some of these indicators of climate drivers, so it now shows also enhanced rainfall for those states. So if you combine the two, late onset and in between the onsets, some states will experience dry spell. And then at the middle of the season, enhanced rainfall until the end of the season. So you can see how vulnerable the agricultural sector could be, and also the need to really work with regional climate centers to provide updates. Some of these updates comes in 5 days or 10 days, and it could really influence decision making, because in some of these Sahelian states, the growing season is no more than 100 days. So you really need a short-term information beyond the long-term model information that at times you rely on. But I think it's a very good start we are seeing, and we are happy that we can also be part of it. Thank you.
A quick question. Mr. Kofi mentioned that right now ARC is more like focused on I'd say insurance, but if there is a need, no? Okay, what I'm saying is like you have an affiliate for insurance, right? But if there is a need, for instance, to issue a cat bond, you would be able to put it in place, some sort of structure that would handle that. My question is how, like, you know, in our sub-region, sometimes it takes a lot of time to have things established. So if, for instance, ECOWAS decides to use ARC, for instance, would you guys be able to set up something within a reasonable time frame, or would you be using maybe an alternative in this case? And also just to confirm, you've mentioned that the drought model allows you to predict for future drought, which is interesting, but for the flood model, you know, I was at the last SEALS agreement project in Abidjan, and they mentioned that this year they might have some flooding in the sub-region with a certain probability that I don't know. Is it something that you guys are looking into, and is it something that your model has already predicted for these countries? Thank you.
Sorry.
Dr. Kamba, you can take the line.
DJ Ahmed, you have the floor.
Okay, yeah, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, please.
Oh, good, yeah. Yes, I'm coming back on, as you saw in the presentation for this year, the current drought over Southern Africa. One of the key indicators of having an impact on the strategies and policy level for us has been to look at when do the countries impacted by drought declare the state of drought emergency. Are they really anticipatory action, identify well before, and then act upon before the response and recovery phase arises? So in 2015, during the 2015-2016 drought, we had the declaration at the SADC level in July 2016. And this year, from what we are hearing for the drought of 2014, it is still in July that the SADC made the declaration, as I saw. So one of the questions let's say it's a challenge for all of us, knowing that we are having these climate outlooks in August, then updates in September, October, even November, highlighting these drought well before the end of the season. How can we work together to actually build this anticipatory action plan, let's say in September, October, and have ARC and ACMAT as well as other partners putting advocacy activities forward to make these anticipatory actions funded and implemented. Thank you.
Yeah, we can start addressing some of them, right? Tunde. All right, okay. So I will start and then Tunde and the colleagues also will complement. Maybe a bit of clarity, colleagues, on your point. So what indicated is that the model, the drought model, just give an indications, a sort of projection within the season, but not predict of a drought, right? So the season start. I took an example of Eastern and South Africa region where most country seasons start. Let's say between September, November, and then the season runs until the following year and between May and let's say June. So within that season, that period, right, this year from January, as indicated, looking into the model, there's data prediction within the season because the model was customized for those particular seasons, and then countries can make an informed decision on that. So I hope it's clarified if we went to right. Okay. And then I think other questions was, I think, from the colleague, the strategy to really ensure that we have a multi-stakeholder engagement, right? I think I mentioned the way we operate at the country level through our host institutions, the ministry or agency. One of the goals is to really establish a technical working group. And this technical group is a representative of multi-stakeholders to ensure that they respond to the work streams that we presented, risk modeling, contingency planning, gender risk transfer. But how do we do it? So through the MOU that we have with that institution, like NADMO for the case of Ghana, so head of NADMO, for instance, can write a letter to those key institutions and attach the term of reference, because would you have at ARC a term of reference for the technical working group? So what kind of a profile we're looking, right? Everything's there. And then in reference to that MOU, the key government entities that we're looking for to sit within the technical group are consulted. And that's what will bring them together to say this is the technical working group of ARC at country level. Then we start the capacity building with them. We don't limit it to the governments only, because sometimes we have a key partners. WFP is always part of the technical group. You have the VAC team, vulnerability assessment team, that also do a lot of work at the country level. FA also, we work also with key NGO, but also key partners that really work aligned with what we do. So that's what we do to ensure that. So that's the 2 points I think most of your other intervention was more comment, suggestion, right, that we think also valuable. So I will let my other colleague to come in if, right. And then I think one of your questions was the insurance side also. So as indicated, ARC is demand-driven institutions, meaning that all the products my colleagues mentioned, they were not born the same day. It's gradually. We started with drought, and the first drought product even target crop areas only. And then 2021, for instance, when we see the need, and when we see the need, member states are the one at every time when they meet every year at conference party level, they made that request. We need this. Of course, that's part of, we have a research and development department. They have to look in the feasibility of doing that, because the risk model is very difficult, all right? It has to take time to make sure that the risk is going to be quantified. So we'll move from drought crop areas to go to Regionland that was launched in 2021. And as the Southwest Indian Ocean, most of them face tropical cyclone, Madagascar, Mozambique, Comoros. They also made a demand at some point, and we need a tropical cyclone model. It took us years to come up with that tools that was launched in 2020. And the same member state in 2015, after Ebola crisis in West Africa, made that request to really come up with something to address outbreaks and epidemics. And it took a lot of years to my colleague Robert to come up a product was launched 2 years ago. So just want to mention that. So they established ARC Limited as an insurance affiliate for now. But what I indicate is if they did a rise in member states, we want something that could be a green bond or something like this, then ARC agency will look into that to see how this can be established and which partner to work with to make sure that we meet that demand, the feasibility. All right. So that's what I mentioned. I'll leave it to my other colleague to comment. Yes, Robert.
So I think part of your question was on the risk transfer modality. So when it comes to catastrophe bond or cat bonds, the problem, at least we did about 3 years investigation into that, is getting the capital. Because with cat bond, you have to have the money in place to be able to, if it triggers, and pay. So with ARC Limited, our affiliate, we did a lot of work. We had 10 insurance companies across the world, including the big ones in Europe, the US, and Africa, who were willing to put money down, at least for outbreaks and epidemics. We had Bermuda wanted to host it, but eventually we couldn't raise the money. So then we went the route of risk transfer, which is reinsurance, which is easier. Yes. So if we are able to, the point I want to make is that the capacity is there within the two sides of the institution to launch a cat bond. We looked at the World Bank's work that it has done, but really to get cat bond money, you are looking into a few hundreds of millions. That's where the problem is. So if you can raise it, we will host it for you. Thank you.
To complement, to add on what Robert said on catastrophic bond, I think that we already had early discussion to see how an investment bank can come into bringing into capital, and all eyes were on EBID because ECOWAS has this vehicle already that have the capacity to raise necessary capital in collaboration with a commercial bank like EcoBank to bring the capital to such instrument. So that's what I wanted to add. So the foundation are there to build on. So it just need the willingness, and we can really do that. Thank you.
Merci. Okay. But the other question, I think I will, build up on the Kofi answer to the how we handle really multi-stakeholder aspect at country level. So I will just say, apart from the technical working group, which is made of different government structure in disaster management, there is also the replica component, which is whereby ARC allow, or humanitarian capitalize on this mechanism. So to take out insurance also at country level. And we have seen this really improve kind of collaboration when it's come to really manage a disaster at country level. So we have today those partners working closely with a member state in terms of planning and also provision of intervention. So over the years, really in countries where we have this mechanism, it has shown, how effective the collaboration was between different actors intervening in a disaster management area. So in terms of, measuring the impact, this is really something huge you are asking from us, because you have to know ARC definitely is not a panacea. Is if you look at the portion of the resources ARC is providing, is really small within the large, need at country level. But definitely this is for early action and avoiding really, crises happening, country to to manage the crisis. So what we are doing, of course, there's no a baseline study before the intervention, and to see really the impact of this mechanism per se, in terms of livelihood or GDP or country level. But definitely we measure the effectiveness of the intervention after a payout is made. There is a process evaluation to see really if the payout has been, effectively managed at country level to reach out vulnerable household. So that's done, and to see the satisfaction of those who benefited from this program. And of course, we can see that also the improvement of country to be able to mitigate, to manage the disaster when it occurs with the capacity building program that's provided to those member states. So those kind of elements are really measurable, but the impact per se is not something really we do. I know our partner, the donor, FW, they conduct what they call this 10 years evaluation, and trying to capture exactly the impact provided by ARC mechanism. And today, I think there are at the second evaluation. Definitely, it's difficult to really quantify the real impact in terms of GDP of the ARC mechanism. So I hope maybe in the future we'll see how to do that collaboratively with other actors, with all the resources that are, provided, or all the intervention that are provided in the aftermath of a disaster. And in terms of, yes, the question in terms about adaptation action, of course, I think we have initiated this initiative, I will say, in Southern Africa countries, Malawi and Zambia, with collaboration with UN OCHA. The mechanism, of course, did not trigger a payout, but the idea definitely is really, since ARC is the traditional mechanism, is really for early action, which is provided at the end of the season with anticipatory action. The idea was really to intervene earlier to the end of season. And as you say, for example, in Sahelian country, during it coincide with the lean season, I would say even, from August toward October. And this, I think, the idea is really to try to experiment that also in other Sahelian country, and namely Niger, whereby we have been discussing with some partner to see how we can develop a similar mechanism in this country. But of course, I think there are many. Sometimes we're thinking how to save the season. For example, when with the model, we can see the failure of a sowing season and how we can react in order to really provide a kind of assistance to farmer in order they can save the season. But this is quite difficult because the model result will come out only the end of the sowing. Therefore, it's quite difficult to save that season, knowing that you cannot have any indication before. So I think, yes, a collaboration with ACMAT, if it's possible, to to implement this initiative. Merci. Okay. So yeah, that's fine for me. Yeah. No.
So I think to add to what Papa said on the impact, I think that we can talk about what's the expected impact for Ghana would be. And for us as a humanitarian organization, NADMO, we look at the best way to save lives and property. I mean, that's the ultimate goal. And so in doing that, we look also at building resilience. Now, what the product we are hoping to purchase is drought for the 5 northern regions and beyond, but then specifically for the northern regions, I think that there's a lot of issue regarding smallholder farmers and how they sort of get impacted drastically by drought. And this leads to things like tribal conflicts, leads to things like school dropouts, people lose their livelihoods, there's no alternative, people migrate all the way to the big cities, cause congestion, then there's building in waterways, causing flooding. So I think that is almost like a vicious cycle. So for us, I mean, it would be one of the ways that we look forward to breaking that cycle, whereby the government is providing sort of a hedge so that people who go into farming, into agriculture, smallholder farmers, do not have to lose everything when there's a drought. Of course, the insurance product will not satisfy all the needs of the people, but we're looking at it as a sort of hedge. Of course, it's an adaptation measure to climate change. And so if you look at it in that broader context, I think that the impacts are actually immeasurable. So for us from the Ghana side, that would be the idea and the thinking into going into purchasing the drought product for the people of Ghana. Thank you.
Hello.
Come on.
Yes, you can.
DG Ahmed, you have the floor, please.
Yes, thank you. I'm coming out on this specifically important issue. So we have been discussing also with the countries, and it comes out that some countries may like to have their premiums raised if, in addition to providing them with support for early response after the drought, we can actually provide information based on start of the agricultural season disruptions, and then supporting with agromet advices, particularly smallholder farmers, in a kind of anticipatory and early action plan. So what the madam from NADMO has just said is specifically what we want to do in a kind of pilot project to demonstrate how we can really go beyond post-disaster early response actions. So we would like to have this really flag as something on which we can team up with ARC, and seeing that in the MOUs between ARC and the regional bodies, a key component in the action plan is communication. We could work together under that communication component of the regional collaboration between ARC and the RECs to pilot a demonstration targeting those smallholder farmers, providing information to help them avoid multiple planting. It is something we have tested and which can work, and then support them in handling other in-season hazards that we have been monitoring. I should mention that for quite a number of years, we are attributing the deficit in food production in the Sahel to the drought when it is most often delay on the start of the agricultural season. So this is something on which we will very much like to work with ARC. Thank you.
For Ahmed, okay, I think we take note of this willingness.
Taking note of, because I know that there is a lot of upcoming discussion that are going to happen between our technical team and Ahmed on how we can go from the MOU-based content to an actual work of plan that will take us from now to the next 2 to 3 years. Since we have, you want me to do the cover? Since we have covered what ARC does in the region now, I think it's time to give floor to the region. So also is ECOWAS. Start with ECOWAS. That will showcase what they are doing in the region and how does that bring us to a better coordination in responding.
All right, thank you for giving me the floor. Yes, exactly. So my name is Karen Ouedraogo. I'm actually a risk finance expert at the Regional Agency for Food and Agriculture of ECOWAS. I'm based in Lomé, and I will be presenting to you basically I will be talking about the reserve at first so that you have a quick introduction of what we do, and also how the ECOWAS is using the reserve to intervene in case of catastrophes or food insecurity issues. And I will be terminating by talking about the possible collaboration that we could have with ARC. So next slide, please. So to give you a little bit of context, the food security issues and crises have been greatly increasing the past few years in the ECOWAS region. And we actually moving from, I'd say, a situation where we do have punctual crisis to more of a structural issue, because population are in the food insecurity stage, and they are pretty much not moving from that stage to food security. And we have increasing number of people getting into this stage and staying in that stage from years to years. And what we call IPC3 phase and also phase 3 of CH. I think CDB, Mamadi already mentioned Cadre Harmonisé. Cadre Harmonisé is the tool that we use in the region to measure food insecurity. We also look into IPC. So people that are basically classified in IPC3 and Cadre Harmonisé phase 3 and more are in food insecurity. So those are the people that we're looking into. And as per the last analysis of the region, we do have more than 50 million people in IPC3 and plus. So this is pretty high, and the number has been increasing quite a lot. So ECOWAS has tried to develop many initiatives to fight food insecurity at its core. I will talk about the reserve now. So let's go to the next slide, please. So the Regional Food Security Reserve was put in place as part of the ECOWAS food storage strategy. And also part of ECOWAP, and with 4 major layers. So the 4 layers are considered as being a defense line in the reserve. So the first one is local stocks that are pretty much handled by the different producers and farmers themselves. They pretty much keep stocks that they will use in the lean season. The second layer would be the national storage. Those are handled and managed by the national government, the different states of ECOWAS. And to that, we do have a third layer, that is the regional reserve, that is actually managed at the regional level by ECOWAS. The way the reserve was thought of when it was created was to contain 1/3 of physical stocks, so cereals, and those stocks are based in different warehouses in Burkina Faso, Nigeria, different countries in ECOWAS. So it makes these stocks readily available in case of crisis, so that ECOWAS can intervene in these different regions. So I mentioned 1/3 of the capital is supposed to be cereals, and 2/3 supposed to be financial reserve. So the financial reserve is handled by, is managed under the form of fund by EBID, that is the Economic and Development Bank of the ECOWAS. I have to say that this financial reserve is currently being implemented, right? So it's not really running now, but ideally, we're supposed to have the 2 parts so that we can have more efficient intervention. We're actually working on that right now. So the 4th layer that was included when ECOWAS started this regional storage strategy was the international aid. But international aid, we all know that we cannot just predict what's going to come in. That brings me to, first of all, I would talk about the capital of the reserve. So we have currently 64,000 metric tons of cereals in our different warehouses. So this is equivalent to about 32 million euros. But when I was talking about the fact that we cannot really rely on international aid all the time, and that we have to work for ourselves and in finding different financing mechanism to finance this food insecurity, I want to actually jump into the next slide and talk about what we are doing at the reserve first in terms of intervention, but I will talk about what we are doing to prevent ourselves from using international aid afterwards. So in terms of number, we have done 19 interventions so far at the reserve. So this is what ECOWAS is doing in the region. The 19 intervention concern 6 countries that are listed above, and this is a total of more than 55,000 metric tons that have been distributed. So how this goes is usually a country will make a request to the reserve, then we would either decide to offer the grain, that is the regional solidarity, or we would give them a loan. And then when they do have a better situation, let's say after the lean season, then they could decide that we will replenish the grain to the reserve. So this is the way it goes. So we have a memory of understanding with the different countries that that benefit from this reserve. Now, in terms of working with the sub-region in general. I mentioned that the reserve is trying to help the different other organizations like SEALS. So the reserve has been putting a lot of money into coordinating the effort because SEALS is working on its sides. We have different organizations working on their side, and we had pretty much duplicating the different efforts. So this is not effective. As a matter of fact, last week, the reserve held in Dakar I would say a workshop with the countries and also with the different organization in the region so that they can decide, first of all, what is the gap that the different states do have in terms of fighting food insecurity, and also what is each of the organization doing so that the reserve does not have to go and do what the other people are already doing, targeting the same population. So that is important for the reserve right now. This is a work that is done. And in terms of funding, as I mentioned before, we do rely a lot on international donors, but ECOWAS is trying as hard as it can to use its own fund to fund this particular reserve. And there is this tax, it's called zero famine tax, that was established, and it's tax on import in ECOWAS region. So the proceeds of these taxes are supposed to be used for the reserve so that the ECOWAS could be able to fund itself. This is ongoing. It's not really effective as of now, but ECOWAS is working hard to be able to fund itself with this strategy. Next slide, please. So there is an initiative that, well, I would say it's more of a World Bank initiative at ECOWAS. It's called BRIEF initiative. We like to call it this way, but it's actually the Global Shield Financing Facility initiative. It's a backstop mechanism that the reserve is trying to put in place. So this would be standing between the reserve and the international aid when we want to look at it in terms of layers of defense for food and security. So the idea is basically to enable the reserve to respond to major food security crisis in the region. We all know that with the quantity of stocks that I have mentioned what this mechanism will do is, if it triggers, for instance, it would help the reserve target the country in which there is the catastrophe. That's pretty much it, to put it in a simple way. So the feasibility study is handled by Willis, the firm, Willis Tower Watson. We are also working with them on this matter. The idea is to make sure we do have the instrument by October. So we will have a dissemination to the stakeholders by then. I think ARC would be invited to, have a look at what has been done and also give an input to that. So I will leave it to that and we go to the next slide, please. So in terms of actionable recommendation, so we have an MOU with ARC right now at ECOWAS. But I was asking the question also about the capacity building because yes, we might have an MOU, but are we really using it to its full capacity? So this is something that on our side, the great experts that I'm one of them, we are really trying to work on, and we had planned to maybe have a meeting with ARC. This is something that we've been contemplating. So this today occasion is a good one. Maybe we'll be able to set up something by the end of today. And also, I think that we could have further collaboration with the reserve as well, with ARC. I know that when, you know, ARC is already in most of ECOWAS countries, right? And when the mechanism triggers, there is a compensation. The reserve also has grains stored in these countries. So what happens is that if there is a trigger and if ARC is supposed to give monetary compensation, instead of just giving the monetary compensation, they could talk with the country, of course, and with ECOWAS so that we could use the reserve to give them grains, give the countries grains, and then ARC would be able to replenish the reserve through this money that was going to be transferred to the country. That way, we would have a, I would say, timely distribution of grain to population, especially if it's a food security crisis that is induced by a catastrophe event like a drought or flood. And also that would allow the reserve to have frequent rotations, because those are stocks of cereals and it actually expires. So every 2 years, the reserve has to kind of do some rotation by, you know, asking a country if they want to buy it to some price. And then, you know, it's a lot of work for us. But if we could use the ARC mechanism to actually have this synergy, it would definitely help the reserve and would, you know, promote ARC at the same time, I believe. So also, I think there are different areas that could be explored in terms of collaboration, particularly with the mechanism that we are trying to put in place at the reserve. We don't know exactly what's going to be the role of ARC, but I think that there were discussions already in the past for that. And by the time we do decide which mechanism is going to be used, I think ARC is going to come to the table so that we decide how we could collaborate on that. Yes, so I think that ends my presentation, and I thank you very much for your attention.
Questions and answers.
Okay, thank you very much. I My name is Mansour Matazu from the African Center of Meteorological Applications for Development. I'm a climate services applications specialist. So on behalf of all the team members under the supervision of the Director General, we want to appreciate ARC for this wonderful platform. As for ACMAD, we've been working very hard to establish user interface platform. So we see this also as another opportunity for that. Next slide, I will quickly go to the evolution of ACMAD, which was created through the UNECA resolution of number 540, following the droughts of 70s and 80s. So ACMAD was established and is headquartered in Niamey since 1992. So as also it has been serving as a continental weather and climate watch center for Africa with the following functions of monitoring, forecasting, providing early warning for droughts, floods, tropical cyclones, and other extreme events as functions. So we are very happy to announce that this has a strong convergence with the focal point of ARC. And also as a continental specialized center, we've been designated by WMO as a regional climate center since 2015, based on the approval of the Congress of WMO. And also as a continental multi-hazard advisory center since last 2 years for the AUC situation room, especially the Africa multi-hazard early warning advisory and anticipatory reaction system. The center also has been an institution of excellence for application of meteorology for sustainable development. We've been providing capacity building to all African countries' Met Service and other relevant stakeholders on methods, tools, and products developments, as well as contribution to global weather and climate programs. We've been promoting also issue of climatic database, and as well as research and innovations on the continent. Next slide. This is the Continental Multi-Hazard Advisory Center that has been operational since 2022, based on the collaboration with AUC, UNDRR, and the CIMA Foundation in Italy. So this has been providing multi-hazard advisory to the African Union Situation Room since 2022 with regular scheduled updates. And this also has been an interface of technical backstopping to the recently established in-countries disaster situation rooms. We have one by ECOWAS in Abuja, and also we have another one in Tanzania. And there are ongoing discussions also to establish another one in the Sahelian countries very soon. Next slide. With regards to the multi-hazard early warning system, we contribute in two major key components. And one of these is the disaster risk knowledge, whereby we collect, we aggregate and disseminate continental risks information, and we map it and collaborate with other continental facilities. We do joint training and capacity building initiatives on the continent. And the second contribution we do to this center is detection and monitoring, as well as analysis and forecasting of hazards such as droughts, floods, and other hazards for identified elements like heavy rainfall, strong winds, cyclone tracking, and also forecasting and monitoring drought and providing early warning systems. So ACMAD provide this support to the AU situation room, and also we have a two-way communication with the national situation rooms, also being established at the regional centers of ICPAC and SADC ECOWAS and other emergency and humanitarian operations center. So this we do with a high level of responsibility, and also do provide two-way mechanism backstopping to these situation rooms. And such information also are being downscaled to country level and also to subnational level for disaster risk reductions. Next slide is an example of one of our contribution to AUC situation room. On the left is the tracking of the tropical cyclone that happened in 2024. And on the right also is a detailed multi-hazard outlook for the next 5 days with different level of severity also that will provide at continental level. So we use a multimodal approach so that to get the best skills for the model and also the forecast being provided. Next. This summarizes what we provide, especially at the AUC situation room, whereby ACMAT participated in elaboration of the SOPs on situation room documents that has been established, both at the continental and also at the regional level. We also contribute in generation of the situation room in collaboration with AUC situation room. So we serve as technical backstopping partner. We also do collect and disseminate continental risk information, mapping through our contribution to provision of state of climate report that is being published annually by WMO and other key partners, as well as the African Union. As we have seen statistically, the high impact hydrometeorological disasters based on the state of climate 2022 reported events based on flood, storms, landslide, drought, and wildfire. So you can see reported deaths, number of people affected, and also the socioeconomic damages. So, and this really shows how vulnerable Africa and our nations also are, and also the need to contribute and collaborate further between ACMAT and ACT to see how we can reduce this exposure. Next slide. Part of our strategy is to really get to the users because most of the climate products are perishable. Perishable like moi moi and any other perishable product. So if you don't get such products relayed to the users, so the whole essence is being defeated. So part of the products is we provide to the AUC situation room is the continental climate outlook, which we do at continental level. And this, we gather all the Met service on the continent with representation from regional centers also of over the continent like ICPAC, IGAD, and other regional climatic centers to provide products in different sectors. So one of our key sectors is agriculture. Over 80% of the agricultural sector in Africa is rain-fed, and rainfall is highly variable in the tropics. So, and farmers really need information. We have seen established evidence at some country level that simple uptake of weather information can increase yield by about 30 to 35% to farmers, and also can reduce risks by about 90%. So this is a very key important tool. So part of the services also we provide is the disaster risk reduction component of our climate services. And this under also collaborations, and also part of our main mandate, we provide meningitis and vigilance, and also heat wave alerts on the continent. And also on the DRR, we do provide heavy rainfall and strong winds also forecast regularly. And these are very tailored with significant weather and climate phenomena and their related hazards, potential impacts, and what are those response measures. So if you look at this, ACMAT goes beyond just telling what the weather will be, and then providing deep impact-based detailed information on how severe the weather will be based on deviation from the above or below normal thresholds, and also how could that also impact activities? What are the potential impacts? And also with some suggested response measures. So this has been established based on our interaction with different stakeholders from these key components. Next slide. We've had a collaboration under with VITO organization in Belgium, and we implemented this ClimTag project and developed a climate services tool for climate risks, especially to update the agricultural calendar. So it has these following attributes: 56 agroclimatic indicators, 3 climate scenarios inbuilt, and then also 15 climate models also integrated to it, and 4 time horizons, as well as having 23 countries shaded in green that are really beneficiaries to this. All their country level actors were trained, and also tools is very available online for being a web-based climate service agroclimatic indicator, which provide detailed information on the onset of the rainy season and if there are cases of occurrence of the drought spell. And it also has a window of past and future time horizons, looking at the scenarios between 80s to 2010, and also a projection of what the climate will be in future. The resolution is quite high. It's 1 kilometer by 1 kilometer map, and with aggregated at district levels, because all these activities happens at this sub-district level. So you need, farmers require point forecast, not generic forecast based on our interactions. As I said, we've been operating in 22 countries, and the stakeholders that we have targeted were the Met Service, policymakers, researchers, and extension officers. This is also a very key project that we could also expand and replicate in other parts of Africa. Next slide. With regards to drought, especially, it has been well spoken here, how that affects both East Africa and Southern Africa. And for the Sahelian countries, they do have an in-season dry spell, which at times could be even more injurious than the drought, long-term drought, because it happens after the onset, after the planting window. So in some location, you could have 3 weeks. In some areas, we could have up to 5 weeks break. And such is very, very injurious, especially to small-scale farmers. So we've developed a drought monitoring index using SPI, SMA, and also PAPA, which is derived from combination of these 3 key index to identify areas with potential, which will have a potential agricultural drought, and also already where the drought is affecting the vegetation, and also whether areas are recovering. So it's an advanced NDVI mechanism tool also that is being used. So this is very critical, especially in advising farmers on the short-term and medium-term scale to be able to obtain this information for improved farming activities. Next slide. We've also had a collaboration with the Pennsylvania University in the United States on monitoring air quality, especially during the dry season. As you know, volumes of metric tons of aerosols in form of dust particles are being generated over the Sahel and some from other subcontinental level. So in this, we monitor the air quality and provide also an index of advisories based on composition of such pollutants in the atmosphere. So this is also another area also that we could also do some further collaborative projects over this African continent. Next slide is one of our products we provide to the health sector, which is a vigilance map for especially heat waves, looking at the composition of the atmosphere in terms of humidity, temperature, and other components also that will provide heat wave alert in different areas over the continent. This is the index of the product. And also it has the phenomena and the hazard which we generate, and what are the potential impacts, and what are those DRM measures and advisories that actors and especially users could take. This is also very critical, as we know how heat wave can trigger different diseases like meningitis, measles, and how that has multiplier implication also to productivity in agriculture and other sectors. So this is also another area whereby ACMAD and work together under the epidemics also components to see how we can go further deeper and can provide even additional windows of malaria, vigilance, and other measles and other climate-induced risks that exist over the continent. The next slide is what we do in terms of meningitis vigilance monitoring and providing advisory services. On the left is the meningitis belt. And also we have effective collaboration with WHO Afro Office in Africa. And we do provide this forecast on meningitis monitoring and also forecast. And that has been, by the right side, verified by the WHO Afro Office based on the forecast we provided. And also the ground verification indicates also the performance of the forecast, and that which has informed also some decision by WHO, which included ability of Niger and Chad to engage in vaccination campaign, and that has really reduced the impact of some of these diseases. So this is also another area under health component of ACT that we can really work further and collaborate to give more tailored products to target populations. Next slide. As we said, most of these products are meant for the users at the last mile, what WMO call last mile community. And as a result of this, ACMAD at continental level establish 4 user interface under agriculture, health, water, and DRR. And under DRR, we also created another sub interface on infrastructure because of how high impact weather affects damages infrastructure like roads and bridges. So, and for each of these user interface, we have developed terms of reference, rules of procedure, composition of the platform, and then also captured in the work plan meetings and workshops. And based on this also brought out programs, products, and services. So, but this requires full operationalization, which under this ACMAD MOU, we could elaborate on this to see how we can divide the continent into different priority sectors, whereby we can operationalize this user interface. Some countries do already have an existing national framework for climate services. And even those that do not have, we could also help them under this collaboration to have some ad hoc UIPs that will bring actors together. From country level experience, I can tell you at times, even during the period of disaster, there could be confusion. At a time, Ministry of Environment could issue a flood forecast based on their interaction with stakeholders. Not minding what the Met Service and the hydrological service also do to provide. I was once involved in some of this mess scenario whereby a particular ministry issued a flood forecast, and we were summoned by the presidency that this is political period and there's an alert that we're going to have problem. And after even having graduated from previous flood episodes, and by the time we look at the signals and the short-term forecast we provided, there was no such cases. So I think, as made mention by DG Ahmad, communication is one area that we could also work together to have this user interface well operationalized at country level, especially based on your target areas. And this brings out all the actors on one platform, and you can have clear horizontal and vertical seamless flow of information. So on this, based on these platforms, the stakeholders will establish a context, they will identify risks, they will analyze the risks, and then also evaluate the risks, and then what are those risks, threats, and based on this also come up with products and services. And such products will be bottom up and also demand driven products. And by the time you roll them out for uptake, you won't have much problem for implementation. Next slide. Just to share with you some of the, based on the previous slides, some of the best practices that based on the tools and the products and process and mechanisms that we are implementing on the continent. Next slide is the profile of how we produce the products based from weather monitoring at the ground level, space-based monitoring, and also having access to global prediction centers across the globe. And then also the receiving stations, which we do have at Ahmad, using the GTS and other global receipt transmission centers, especially the WMO WIS. And with collaboration with regional climate centers, also develop products that national meteorological services will uptake and then downscale them to their national uptake. And based on this, Ahmad adopted a cascading communication chain to facilitate the movement of information from our source level to the users. And this is from global to our continental level and to our primary users at the national Met Service or DRR level. As we say, communication is very critical here for us, and this requires effective implementation of the user interface. But we've had an effective procedure and processes in generating our products, and also which has been confirmed based on ground verification, based on also human verification of the performance of this forecast. The second slide on the best practice is one of the multi-hazard early warning product and services that we provide. In last year, we've made a forecast of a heavy rainfall in these locations, as you can see from the key areas with red, brown, yellow, and then also white. For Algeria, we've made a forecast and issued this well in advance. And as you can see in the down component, part of the slides, the deadly flash floods and heavy rains that affected this country. So this was issued 5 days ahead, supporting preparation and early response to disasters. But when you get to the ground, you see that a lot of damages have been incurred as a result of non-action. So we could do more under this MOU and work plan that we come up with in providing capacity at national and subnational level for anticipatory actions. So at times users get information, but they don't know what they will do with it. So this is also very important. The second slide is also based on our forecast. We predicted well the high intensity, the Daniel cyclone that happened in Libya. As you can see from the slide of the product that was issued last year. So Libya was to have high intensity rain with strong winds. And this also was issued 5 days ahead to support preparations and early response. So, but what happened is the response to the users of these products. And that is as a result of at times lacks of capacity, lacks of awareness. So under this partnership, we could do more to create capacity at national layer and then see that being downscaled at the last mile community. And as you can see, the impact of such cyclones and high intensity storms. This is a purely arid area that had never had such type of extreme events. And the next slide is the cyclone Freddy that happened in the February, which was also well captured in our forecast and which was also followed up. We have another product, RDT, in our website. On our website, you can access it. Rapidly developing thunderstorms. As when you click on it, you see details of the storm. You will see the intensity. You see the lightning intensity, the severity, whether the cloud is growing or is disseminating, is truncating. And based on this, you can provide early warning on real time and also in nowcasting, because some of these extreme events, after providing sub-seasonal forecast, you need to follow up with nowcasting in few hours. So this has been well tracked by our monitoring tool, and we've also issued out this, but I'm sure you have seen the impact of some of this in these countries. The next is also one of the products. We provide impact-based products going beyond what the weather will be to further make an impact-based forecast, what the weather will do. And based on this, as we have seen, we have a collaboration with UN OCHA, and on the left is the forecast that we provided for decision makers, and which has been updated also regularly. While on the right is the overlaid map based on our interaction with UN OCHA that captures the prediction of percentage of population to be affected by flood. And this information is very critical because it was co-developed by UN OCHA and ACMAD. It helps in preparation on emergency planning and budgeting well ahead of any extreme event, especially floods. So we could do this with other extreme events of any target, also locations on the continents, because this is very key for decision making, and it also helps reduce the impact of such extreme events being felt by the society on the ground. Next slide. By establishing, based on monitoring mechanism of the center, the possibility of having an El Nino. So ACMAD held a policy dialogue for anticipatory actions, and which the key stakeholders were decision-making bodies, scientific regional partners, whereby ACMAD organized a policy dialogue which provided the outlook with potential impacts of the El Nino phenomena over Africa. And this has really created some anticipatory actions at continental level, but I think we need to do more at national level. And this is one of our proactiveness in providing early warning in the long range scenario, and also being followed up with short-term products to reduce some of this exposure to extreme events. The next slides is we also have different products on climate monitoring. We have a 30-day precipitation monitoring tool whereby you can monitor the performance of rainfall, whether it will be well above average, near average, below average, and well below. And these are signals for either flood or drought. And based on the outlook that we now issued out in May, which was meant for June to September season. And this is the main growing season in the Sahel. And we provided anomalies and then also provided certain advisories that is meant for most users for uptake on the continent. So, and based on the African Continental Climate Forum that was held, whereby we have representation from all African nations. But I think under this collaboration, we could do more on this in terms of partnership with ARC to provide more specific products based on countries' demands. Next slide. This is also one of our very critical products on the agricultural sector. It provides information on the start of the season, the onset of the season over most parts of Africa. As you can see on the right, you have the brown, you have red and green, which shows late, near average, near to average to early and early. And we follow this up with monitoring the performance because we do get on real-time information from stations at ground level from our network. And we provide 10-day updates to these products. And under this collaboration, if you pick like these two locations, one is in Senegal and another one in Burkina Faso. When you click, you can get detailed information about any of such location. The averages of long-term onset, what are the years onset, the cessation period. And under our collaboration, I think we can do more on other minor elements within the season, like total rainfall amount and also dry spell forecast within the growing season. And if you do this based on experience, Agri Extension Officer will advise farmers on the best yield to go with for that particular year. So in summary, I think based on the preceding slides, as we can see, what we do offer on the especially products using different channels of user interfaces. I think having signed an MOU with this suggestion that we can conduct capacity assessment of coordination mechanisms and needs at continental, regional, and national levels based on the MOU we have signed and based on the work plan that we are working to update presently. We can also raise awareness among politicians and decision makers, especially of the availability of impact-based forecasts. So decision makers need to be very much aware about the flexibility of this forecast and its importance. We can do more also to strengthen observation and forecasting capabilities, both at national and subnational level. I can tell you also, in some countries, you can go to their med service, and some do not have more than 1 or 2 or 3 specialized forecasters in that stations. So, and you can see even if at continental level you provide a product to national agencies to now transfer down the ladder to the last mile community. So there is lack of capacity, even though I know there is ongoing WMO projects on SOF, which is trying to build the observation gap and also raise some capacity. But under this, we can identify some areas based on the needs assessment report we have from WMO to see how we can improve their capacity, and then also they contribute to reducing this disaster risks at communal level. We can also support disaster managers from continental to local levels, especially to receive and give feedbacks on impact information, especially of these extreme events. So at times you get forecasts delivered to users, but you don't get feedback of how does that affect, how it impacts their activities. I will give one scenario. In my village in the 80s, there was this campaign on family planning, and they did a poster of 2 scenarios. One scenario, somebody on a bicycle with 7 kids and his wife, and they're all looking very tattered, poor. And the other one, only 2 children with his wife. They're looking turgid and healthy. and they brought it to a village square to interpret. So after doing the interaction with the village people, so one pious old man raised his hand and asked a question. Please, facilitator, where can you give me information to where to get this bicycle that can take 7 people on it? So you can see the information is missed, and therefore it really requires that if we are developing any products, and that was why I made mention during my intervention questions that you need some baseline information at communal level. Even if it is at desktop level, you can generate such information so that if you are designing a product, these communities normally should contribute to it. And under our partnership with AC will even encourage pre-testing of products. If we do any products, we identify what we called a target community that we can be using to pre-test. You just give them and ask them to interpret the product. So, and based on that, you get their input and improve on the form, on the frequency and nature of such products. So we could really do this in DRR, we could do this in the health sector, we could also do this in the agricultural sector because this is very important. We can also collaborate to advocate for increased investment in response capacities. So during different fora and platforms. And last but not the least, prioritizing training and operation of impact-based forecasting, warning decision-making and action, as well as benefits of this assessment. So we always made mention that if you do any intervention, it's very important to get the socioeconomic impact of such assessments. And by the time you have that quantifiable evidence, you could easily attract more funding, you could get more trust and more interest from different stakeholders. So on this note, I would like to close this, our intervention from ACMAD with an anonymous quote I stumbled on some 25 years ago. And it says, I quote, that in the developed countries in Europe and other developed countries, Western countries, weather is life and life is weather. While in the third world countries like ours, weather is unknown and life is uncertain. But I think with what we are doing at WMO and continental and national level, weather is very much known now. We can predict that. And with what other stakeholders and actors are doing like AC, so life is very much certain. But we can really make it more certain under this collaboration. I thank you very much for listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Matazu. That was very, very, very detailed. Indeed, there are very many collaboration points with ACMAD, which we're happy and delighted our technical teams are already having discussions to take this further. And given the recent momentum with the AMEWAS operationalization. So for example, your presentation was really focused on, I had some comments, I'm sure there are questions, but we've really run out of time. But there are really issues of interoperability, co-production that really needs to be enhanced and build synergies. So thank you for that. So thank you all, ladies and gentlemen. We had another session on leveraging partnerships, but unfortunately we didn't have enough confirmations at the technical level. So what we'll do is we'll embed the key statements from the partners who came already from the opening, high-level opening, and embed it in the synthesis and outcomes. I understand we have a synthesis and outcomes key takeaway documents. We'll circulate, clean it up, circulate it to all participants so that these actionable recommendations, we can take it forward. And the idea for this platform is to have an annual ARC-REX forum with partners so that we continue the coordination and collaboration on the margins of the annual AU-REX coordination meetings. So without further ado, let me call on my colleague, Senior Advisor on Outbreaks and Epidemics, to give the final word and wrap-up message. Thank you. Questions? Maybe during the lunch, because of there's a time issue with the lunch.
Yeah, but if there are one or two really pressing questions you want to address now, but if not. Papa? C'est bon, hein? Thank you, colleagues. We've gone over time a bit. I think it is now my duty to close this meeting, and it's always not a good task to be given because you're standing between people and their lunch. And some people and their families, given that it's a Saturday. So as we conclude this insightful side meeting on the regional disaster risk financing and outbreaks and epidemics approaches, I'm honored to extend our heartfelt gratitude to all who made this event a success. First and foremost, I would like to thank our esteemed keynote speakers from the morning, the DGs of ARC Group, the representatives from ECOWAS, SADC, IGAD, UMA, and the Honorable, the government of Ghana that was represented here, I would say, by our sister Charlotte from NADMO. A special thank you also to all the facilitators, but also the guests from different organizations who have been here with us, ECOWAS, SADC, UMA, IOC,
CDAO,
AFDB, Badea, and WFP. So we are very grateful for the active participation of all the attendees. Your contributions and engagements greatly enriched our discussions and paved the way for actionable recommendations. You will agree with me that in this half-day session, we have shared and identified common areas of interest, and I believe we now have the platform, the interest, and we can have synergies and agreements of how to move forward. So our sincere appreciation to all of you individually and to your organizations. And then we would like to thank the government of Ghana for hosting us, the interpreters for doing their great work and going beyond time, and then the hotel also for providing us the venue and the services that has enabled us to have this discussion. So together, if Papa will allow me, we take this as a good opportunity, and I hope that we will be able to move on from here to do more work. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon, and God bless you.
Thank you, Robert. So meeting is closed. There's lunch provided at the restaurant. The main restaurant, you'll see there's a corner for ARC delegates. And let's definitely continue the follow-up discussions with our partners, WFP, ACMAD, ECOWAS, NADMO is here. A lot of follow-ups, a lot of next steps, because let's not underestimate the value of partnerships. Yeah. One last thing, those who are sponsored by ARC, please see me after lunch for logistics and DSA sorting out. Thank you.
ku fi ñëw mu jàngal ndax fi ko moom ndox mi moo ko moom daf ko doon lii xar yi la lii bëy la nagam yaa ngi àll baa ngi bang baki mama lo ardo lo yeri lo ardo lo yeri lo ardo lo yeri dakali mu jëm fi nga dak yi mu jëm fi yaa xam yow li xew fe